Welcome back to Führer News. Today is Sunday, 1945. The sky is clear and it's the perfect time for barbecue. On today's news, we're discussing the successes of Hitler's economic policies. This was a period in time where it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was also an age of foolishness. Although Hitler's economic policies and Göring's four-year plan towards economic self-sufficiency did boost Germany's economy through increased large-scale factory production as well as decreasing the unemployment rate, however, it was done at the expense of the workers. The workers had to work long hours and their wage remained low compared to 1925 before the policy was employed. Before we get started on Hitler's successes with his economic policies, we must first identify the major ideologies that could be considered as catalysts towards boosting Germany's economy. Hitler's economic policies had four major goals: full employment, rearmament, autarky, as well as mobilizing the German economy within the 4 years, hence the four-year plan. Regardless of criticism from German business owners, Hitler's economic policies did boost Germany's economy as well as improving the better lives of the German people. First, unemployment rate were decreased significantly, as seen in this graph here. The unemployment rate went from 6,014,000 to just 300,000 within the span of 6 years, which is really impressive. Now, Hitler was able to achieve these goals through a variety of aspects. First, there was the National Labor Service. Under the leadership of Jean Marchand, the chief of Germany's National Bank as well as the Minister of Economics, the plan stated that all German male aged from 18 to 25 has to be drafted and serve at least 6 months in the labor service. With the National Labor Service alone, it was able to decrease a huge chunk of Germany's unemployed. Furthermore, using the National Labor Service, Jean Marchand was able to organize the Autobahn scheme that allowed Germany to improve their travels and transportation by constructing roads, railways, as well as automotives such as the Volkswagen. Furthermore, the public works also allowed Germany to construct more schools and hospitals, which were essential in improving Germany's society as well as the economy. Fun fact, people that worked in the rearmament industries were actually being paid through something called the MEFO bills. Due to the Treaty of Versailles banning Germany from producing weapons as well as vehicles, the rearmament industry was kept a secret. Therefore, in order to hide the spending, the manufacturers were being paid through something called the MEFO bills. Now, what it basically is that it allows you to cash in after a certain amount of time through the German central bank. Additionally, the four-year plan was also able to achieve significant political goals, such as crushing the communists and social democrats, Nazifying most German institutions, as well as decreasing the unemployment rate significantly. Now, enough with the statistics. Let's actually hear what the people have to say about Hitler's economic policies. Now, let's hear from this lovely gentleman about what he had to say about Hitler's economic policies.
Yeah, man, I really don't like this new policy with everyone getting employed and stuff. Like, I'm already getting paid. I was already employed, and now I gotta work longer hours but still getting the same payment. Like, dude, what do you do? I don't know. I feel like, Hitler is such a douche. Like, I really don't like him, and like, I don't know. I know I'm not supposed to say this in like live TV, but like, I just don't like working long hours, dude. Like, come on. And these MEFO bills are killing me.
Very well.
Like,
Thank you, sir.
what do you mean?
Thank you so much. Now, on the other hand, although Hitler did indeed decrease Germany's unemployment rate as well as boosting the economy during the 1930s to 1940s, however, a large contribution of that has to do with the natural recovery that was occurring globally at the same time. As seen in these graphs here and here, the market had a natural global recovery due to the global effort of initiating new deals and pleas such as the National Industry Recovery Act of 1933, as well as new demands of governments and consumers that triggered the recovery towards the positive direction. Furthermore, the Nazis also doctored statistics when it comes to glorifying their economic recovery results. As an example, when it comes to documenting the unemployment rates, Jews, women, as well as the Reich Labor Service were all excluded, which leads to the question of accountability and dignities towards these campaigns and actions. Additionally, the rearmament and conscription industries obviously brought a huge increase towards employment and boosted German economy through constructing the forbidden weapons and vehicles. However, the government did spend an enormous amount of money towards such industries, which is extremely unsustainable when looking at long terms and destined to cause another economic crisis in the near future, because the government is still borrowing money from foreign nations in order to keep these industries alive, which is really unsustainable when you look at it long term. Now, in 1934, Hitler introduced a new plan. With the governmental focus now towards the rearmament industries, the result, on the contrary, are not as exciting as it seemed. One of the main goals towards this new plan was autarky and military self-sufficiency. Due to the fact that Hitler wanted to start another war, the Nazis are now in desire of full independence towards making their own weapons and vehicles, as intentions it would boost the economy as well as ensuring military safety at the same time, as depending other countries to make your weapons during the war is extremely risky, as the products could eventually be altered against your favor. However, the rearmament industry brought little to no progress towards military or economic autarky. The manufacturers still required a great deal of imported raw materials. In addition, importing and exporting products also became significantly more difficult as increasing tariffs that was employed internationally in order to decrease the global trade. Now, due to this imbalance amount of a large amount of materials imported and few amount of products exported, this resulted in the trade deficit. Now, the trade deficit could mean a good thing under certain circumstances. However, when we're looking at Germany's current economic situation, it is definitely undoubtedly a negative. As Germany increases spending internally towards weapon and vehicle manufacturing, it did not help rejuvenate the economy. As you don't really just go out and buy military aircraft over the weekend, it requires a high amount of materials imported and that were expensive, and that cost the government even more money, as the products they were creating were not exporting due to the high tariffs, which is causing Germany's government to continuously borrow more money that were spent internally to create these products that were not selling or exporting. Now, in an attempt to resolve this conflict, the new plan was created by Hitler. It basically rejected all imports unless it was approved by the Ministry of Economics, in an effort to gain independence towards importing materials, as Hitler's final goal was to wage war, and you cannot wage war if you're still depending on another country to import your materials that is used to create weapons in the factory. Although this idea sounds great, however, it meant that food and crops imports were also deducted, that resulted in food shortages that caused sufferings throughout Germany and a major increase in food prices. Now, to get a better scope, here we have a local businessman that survived the food shortages here to tell us all the tales about the food shortages and the sufferings. Well, here we have the local businessman here to tell about his tales with his survival story about the food shortages. Sir, as a man of, economic backgrounds and, you own a business yourself, what are your thoughts towards this food shortages?
I feel like,
it was absolutely bummer over time, not gonna lie. Like, obviously it was a bummer. And, people were hungry and angry. When German people get hungry, they get really angry. And trust me, you do not want a flock of angry Germans on me. That's just atrocious. And I feel like Hitler is the main guy behind all this. Like, he's the main guy to blame. With his new plan that basically banned all imports. Food, crops were not importing, that caused the suffering. And, food prices drove up significantly. So much so to the fact that, normal people that work like a 9-to-5 jobs in the factories, they were not able to afford these foods that, resulted in these sufferings. I feel like this was definitely a dark period of time that nobody likes. Well, thank you so much, sir. There you guys have it. That was the businessman. Back to you. Yeah, thank you so much. Not only did the food shortages cause an enormous amount of headaches for German people, the standard of living for German workers were also decreased. The workers now are badly paid, as well as they also had to work longer hours, as said in the beginning of this news broadcast. Then came the 4-year plan. The 4-year plan, although it achieved many significant political goals, as mentioned in the beginning of this broadcast, however, its main intentions were to mobilize Germany's economy within the 4 years, hence why it is called the 4-year plan, in order to prepare for war. That included firepower and the economy, which meant that Germany required autarky, which is economic self-sufficient, which in translation means that all the raw materials and food imports that Germany required will have to be produced locally, thereby eliminating the dependence of foreign nations' imports. As depending on other imports from other countries during the war is extremely dangerous, again, as an event of it could also cause a catastrophic economic crash, or the country could just not import you any materials, therefore stopping your economy from working. Now, Jean Marchand disagreed with this plan, especially with the fact that the economy will have to be mobilized within the 4 years, and the governmental concentration is being putting towards industrial and military productions. Jean Marchand thought it would be better suited to rejuvenate the economy instead of powering for war or preparing for war. Furthermore, Jean Marchand also thought that the plan was way beyond the capabilities, especially within such short amount of time. Moreover, Jean Marchand also believed that this plan was unsuitable and unsustainable for Germany, as Germany currently is still depending on other countries' economy, as Germany still requires a great amount of imports, as well as Germany still owns a tremendous amount of debt and is continuously borrowing money in order to supply such weapon and military productions. Therefore, Jean Marchand soon resigned as Minister of Economics, and this is when Hermann Göring decided to step up and took over soon after. Although Hermann Göring himself has no previous experience towards managing economics. So here comes $1 million question. Overall, how successful was Hitler at achieving economic self-sufficiency? Now, there is no one-size-fits-all or one answer fits all in this situation, as although Hitler was able to get a taste of success, however, not in all aspects. For instance, the new plan had a great idea of banning imports in order to achieve economic and military self-sufficiency. However, it also led to food shortages, and in the end, there was no way for Germany to produce these imported foods locally due to the geographic location Germany is placed in Eastern Europe. But on the other hand, then again, it was also maintained as it was a part of Hitler's strategy to invade other countries in Eastern Europe to extract resources from war or invasions. Moreover, although the rearmament industry was able to bring down the unemployment rates, however, it also created tension between the desire for autarky in agriculture versus military war productions. Agricultural workers were drafted into the factories to produce weapons, approximately 1.4 million of them. This meant that Germany was drawing more spendings internally towards this unbeneficial nor unsustainable program. The large spending on the weapon and war vehicle productions led to budget deficit, and the steel productions remained low compared to the expectations due to this. Furthermore, by 1939, the eve of war, Germany was still importing 1/3 of its materials, and workers continuously suffered from the long working hours as well as the low payment. On the other hand, underneath all that, strictly economically speaking, Hitler was able to successfully solve and achieve the unemployment rates issue, as well as boosting the economy through increased factory productions both in and out of the war. Additionally, Hitler also improved the quality of society through constructing more hospitals and schools, as well as improving Germany's transportation and economy through constructing more railroads and railways from the Autobahn. In conclusion, although Hitler was successful in rebooting the economy, decreasing the unemployment rates, as well as raising the standard of society through Autobahn and school and hospital constructions, it was unsuccessful in the ways that it lowered the standards of living for workers, resulting in food shortages, as well as spending a huge amount of money internally towards weapon and vehicle productions that is both unsuitable and unsuccessful and unsustainable in the long run. Germany still relied on foreign imports and foreign loans. That is it for tonight, folks. Thanks for choosing us. Have a wonderful evening.